Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of TMC, the Mainframe community from Mainframe Society. I'm your host, Niall Ashley, but I'm joined by our latest guest, Nanxi Meng. Nanxi, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello everybody, my name is Nanxi Meng. I work for Broadcom and I'm also leading the Mainframe Open Education effort. So glad to be here. Thank you, Niall.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, Nanxi, do you want to maybe answer the first question that we ask all of our guests? That's sort of a very open-ended question. Answer it however you'd like.
Sure.
What does community mean to you?
Community is definitely a gathering of people with similar minds or great minds. So we share the same mission and vision. That's why we come together and we do things together. That's how I see it.
With your experience, because you've been with the Open Mainframe project for 2 years now, is that
years.
right? So you've had quite a kind of a major input into the kind of community space of generally with mainframes. Obviously, mainframe project as one specific outlet, let's say. But would you say that community is one of the most important kind of values to you? Would you say it's one of your higher ranking values, I guess? Or is there any others that you say trump that?
Thank you for that question. I think actually the word community and also the work I put in toward the community actually increased over the time. So like 2 years ago, my manager actually brought me into the community, the Mainframe Open Education community, which I have no clue what that is. I was brought in because my boss asked me to, and I stepped in, I sit through the meetings, I don't really know what they are talking about. And then eventually I started to ask myself, what's the best use of my time when I come into the meeting? And then started to make a little agenda for myself. I started to bring the topics to the meeting. And before I even know it, I'm the one driving the meeting. So then my boss actually hand over the meeting to me and say, why don't you run it? And I started running it. I come with my agenda for everybody and I started to pull everybody into the action. And then we started to have new initiatives and then we started to work on different topics. And this is how everything started to pick up. And I'm actually really enjoying doing it.
And you're quite busy.
Yeah. And also one more question, going back to your question about the community. When I first being brought in to the mainframe community, I was actually once asked my VP, I said, I feel I'm so very welcomed here, although I'm not coming from a typical technical background. But I was like, I still feel very welcomed here and I feel very well connected. And I wonder if this is a Broadcom culture or this is a mainframe culture. I actually asked the question. And then he said, you should find the answer for yourself.
Yes.
And then by now, I think it's very clearly a mainframe culture.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you say, it's not just a company culture. You could argue that every company's got their own internal culture, but we all have that more generalized, holistic culture because of this kind of, I always say this kind of monolith that binds us together, right? The kind of the big system of either CZ or Linux One or VSC, but these mainframe systems. And I think it's a beautiful kind of commonality, right? It's the kind of, you could say all these different things have, maybe as a baking analogy, they all have flour in common. Maybe they're all, they're all kind of breads or cakes or kind of adjacent baking products. Baking
for sure.
Yeah. So I think it's nice to have these things that bring us all together because ultimately, you have people from different walks of life. You have people from, maybe different systems. I mean, Sean made the good point earlier. In a way, you could argue we're maybe competitors in that. So you're Broadcom and I'm not, or I maybe use RACF rather than ACF2 more generally more. But that's actually not how we work, is it?
No.
So do you maybe want to kind of explain maybe your experiences of that? How have you found kind of the the culture where there could be the opportunity for competition, but there isn't that culture.
Yeah, so I felt like what's really fascinating in this community is it's really open. We encourage everybody to just come in, jump in with your passion. And every time I connected with people like you, for example, when I first started picking up the student user group, which is part of the Mainframe Open Education, and I started to talk to my colleagues like Phil Sothering or like Devante, Tiso, all these are big names in this a younger part of the community in the Mainframe, and I eventually got connected to you now. And then just talking to all these great minds, I'm like, man, these guys are with great energy. I just enjoy to be just around them because they have so many great things to bring on, and we constantly talk about new initiatives. We want to talk about developing this mainframe learning games. We can do this escape room type of games, and we can encourage people to learn in different ways. I'm like, okay, guys, I'm just this person. I want to. Let's just get going on it. I don't want to just talk about it. I want to do it. I want to just get my hands on it. So when I take over, we also have this like a Mainframe open Git book,
Yes,
open
yeah, yeah.
workspace. We started contributing in it, we're editing it. It's just like so much good stuff happening, basically every week, right? Like we have something happening, and this is just like giving me this energy, and so like this is actually in a way the second job to me, or second job to a lot of us in a way in this community. But like we just keep going. Like we have an idea, we immediately put it into good action just to bring it live and then see how that goes. So
People have an energy they can't contain, right? Like they just, like you said, they just want to do.
They have to do it.
Yeah.
They have to do it, right? Like at the same time, we're also just like any org. We are also like constantly looking for people who can step in next, right? Like who are we gonna bring in next, and how we gonna engage them, and just to make the community bigger, healthier, stronger. So yeah, definitely. Like we sometimes see like we are all maybe reinventing the wheels a little bit here and there. So like we definitely want to bring all those energy all into one place and to see how we can work on that.
Agreed. So with your experiences in the Open Mainframe project, have you maybe got any experience outside of that in kind of a community group? Have you got any hobbies, any kind of pastimes, extracurricular endeavors?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Actually, well, shame on me or not, because I'm a new mom. I have a baby of 8 months old.
Oh,
so
brilliant.
So like with a little baby, it's kind of like hard to get extra time to getting the energy from the community. But before that, I was like heavily involved in this like a workout groups.
Oh yeah.
I do a lot of like aerial sports.
Okay.
So like I have this like very tight dancing group. Like I would dance with people. That's like my biggest passion for the bit. Like I even went for performance just to see how much I can do with my body. Although again, I'm not coming from the like a professional dancer background, but like I just love to challenge the physical of my body just to see what I can do. And also people you work out with have the best friendship ever, because you see the worst of each other. Like you sweat together, you struggle together.
You see each other at your worst, really, don't
you?
Yeah.
You feel like I feel like very safe to share everything with them just to see how I struggled, and I found that also helped me to build this like a mental strength for doing what I do.
Yes.
What I do every day. Sometimes at the end of the day, I already have the day packed, but still when it comes to open source work, somehow I always find extra energy to do that. Yeah, so.
Being a new mum then, you've said that you might maybe had to stop or like at least lessen the amount of like the aerial kind of activities you were doing. Have you maybe found that there's groups, like as a new mum, because obviously there's quite a lot of groups where there's maybe baby groups. I had a baby group with my best friends, and you've got maybe, obviously when they're at nursery age, you might meet other parents. There's also a lot of things where like, mothers who are, sort of prenatal, and they're all like kind of, sharing their stories and sort of almost sharing that lived experience, right? Have you got any experiences like that as well?
Actually, not so much on that, on sharing the experience, but actually, funnily enough, I was heavily engaged in this like a marketplace.
Okay.
Parental. I found that's a very economic way of like living because these days everything for the baby they can charge you a top penny for that.
Yes.
Right. So like I do a lot of like a pre-owned, although I mean like like in tech field, like people are not really lack of money, right?
Yeah.
But I just want my baby to be also aware, economically environment friendly, right? Like I want him to live in such a way that he knows there are things out there, but he doesn't have to possess everything new, everything in his life.
It's not about materials sometimes, is it? It's about experiences.
Yes. So like I'm actually well connected with a lot of like families and moms, and say like we trade things, we exchange things, we buy and sell pre-owned things with one another, and I want to promote also that kind of a way of living the life of raising the baby as well. Yeah, and another community like I found very helpful is this like women in tech.
Yes.
So like we have this lean in circles, and I feel like when I talk to other women figure in the field, right, like whether it's somebody starting out or somebody already established in the community, I feel very powerful talking to them. Like they actually empower me, and they would talk and share their struggles with as a new parent. They would share like they grow their career and their baby and their family. And I used to think it's impossible, because for the longest time I'm like I don't be the full one like take care of everybody and forget myself, but that's actually not the case. I feel like a tech field is because it's constantly growing, it's constantly having new things coming up, and you just have to grow with it, just part of life. There is nothing as part of your professional and part of your life, and these two things are separate.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, I think that's a really good point. You know, it's hard, but there is an ability to juggle these things, to find that balance, right?
Yeah.
I have had people say to me, how do you do it? How do you, volunteer with, young people? How do you have a D&D group? How do you work? And you do this, that, and the other. And I've just sort of like, I just find the I don't know how, like I just push myself to. And I think sometimes by giving yourself the choice, I could be a mum or I could have a job.
Yeah.
And it's a choice, I can do one or the other. If you don't give yourself a choice and say, I have to have my job and I have to be a mum, sometimes you are more encouraged and pushed and therefore you find that within yourself to find that balance, to find that compromise.
Yeah, there's a saying, you say like busy people get things done. And I feel that's exactly the right? Like because actually now, before I went on this interview with you, I also want to know who Niall is, although I heard all the great things about you, but I actually don't know you personally. So I actually went on Apple Podcast. I was like, I want to share, I want to search and see who is Niall. I actually searched and I found a session about Z-Minds.
Yes, with Sammy Clark.
I was so fascinated by your experience because you have all this volunteering experience and then you still keep going, right? Like you're doing your job, you're doing the host, you're doing your voluntary work. I think that's just amazing. Yeah, and for me, I'm currently volunteering for Broadcom University ambassador role.
Brilliant.
For a local university called the University of North Texas. So I was a faculty for 8 years myself. So I was teaching in the university as a lecturer for 8 years. So I think I know students, I know their needs, I know what kind of encouragement they could use to actually boost them or help them, to give them a push from university and to make their own standing in the corporate world or in whatever job they do. So I took on the ambassador role. I reach out to the universities. I help the students, talk to them, help them with resumes and talk to them and say, hey, guys, you're going to give yourself a push. You might feel uncomfortable, but that's temporary. You're gonna definitely do well. So like I love doing this outreach, just talk to them and make sure they feel good, they feel built up and to make their first step.
And you kind of have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, right? Like you can't learn to swim if you just stay in the shallow end. Eventually you're not really swimming, you're going to say doggy paddling or you're not, and I think that's a really good point.
But it'll work. Yeah.
And I think with a lot of students, like you have this, sometimes you have this safety net of you're still in education. It's a different form of education, but you still have the kind of commonality that all these people are my age, we all have a similar lived experience. And then to go into the big wide world of, industry, you have colleagues who might be like decades older than you, who have very different experiences, who've lived in very different parts of the world, and it can be really difficult. And you might find that there's not a lot of things in common, but that's where you have to find them or make them, right? And I think you're right in that sometimes you do have to push yourself out your comfort zone, and you actually forge really strong relationships as a result.
Yeah, and I feel sometimes, I mean, again, I myself used to be a faculty lecturer myself. I think sometimes the professors might actually subconsciously or unconsciously try to intimidate their students and saying, I'm just like a smart figure, right? Like I'm the leading in my line of work. I'm the thought leadership. Like I have all the great minds in my mind. I'm the first one come up with certain theories, like in the industry, and that might actually intimidate students and think they have to be that good to be able to present themselves, to be able to start some kind of work. But that's nothing like that. That's one thing I love about tech. Everybody is so down to the ground. We know technology is evolving all the time. One cannot know all, and you just have to grow with it, learn with it. That's, I think, the biggest difference when we talk about a difference between the communities, because the tech, we're just down to earth, so we're learning by doing. But in academia, sometimes people tend to think, I have to know it all before I can do something.
The curse of knowledge sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. I'm curious though, with all of these experiences, so, with the kind of university faculty, with, sort of being a new mother, with all the aerial exercises, the aerial aerobics. So have you ever found any common sort of mantras, common ethos, values that may be transferred to the mainframe space or vice versa? Something that you've taught yourself in one, or you've readjusted your thinking in one that has helped you in the other space?
Well, actually, I kind of like find the bridge. I find like a gateway, my segue in going backwards, because I myself experienced this like a transition from one community to the next.
Yeah.
So I used to be with the university, and I took about half a year to actually land my current role. So in this half year, I was like trying to quote unquote reinvent myself. Although I was just like trying to up my skill and trying to make what I do fit what I will be doing more. So I actually by accident stumbled upon this like community who are people making this career transition. So this is a group of very dedicated individuals who already experienced one career and they want to do something different.
Yes.
So and then actually now in Mainframe, I found that these people are a solid group. Like we want to bring them into the Mainframe workforce because they are so solid. You can always rely on them. They already know how difficult life can be, and they are willing to learn, and they are willing to find a career path that gives them security of job. So like I started to reach out to this group of people, also talk to them, learn what they've been doing, what they used to do, and introduce them to what we do as the mainframers and like what we can do. And actually in our ecosystem, we need all kinds of people, right? We need different roles, we need different jobs, and you just need to know what mainframe is really.
Yeah.
And then you can bring yourself from there to here. And I kind of like find this like a pathway in between. Maybe it's my way of like finding better fit of what I can do for people.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point is there can be these pathways between these areas that seem maybe mutually exclusive, but they don't have to be. And I always think of things maybe quite mathematically. I think of things like Venn diagrams, right? Where you can have people who are, you know, say faculty at universities, people who work at Broadcom, and people who kind of have that overlap. They're both. And I think that's a really important thing that we kind of consider.
Different backgrounds bring all these people, right? Who they are. From who they are.
So has there been, I guess that's like a way of thinking, but has there been any similarities that you were surprised to find between any of these groups that you've been a part of, any of these experiences and the mainframe space? You know, maybe something you found surprising, like as a in aerial aerobics or in being a new mother, or, you know, as I say in the faculty, and you thought, oh, like, you know, I didn't realize that this was the same, you know.
Well, I definitely see everybody getting their badges.
Yes.
It's basically every time like they push their limit to do one more badge, more badge, another more like a learning milestone. Those are basically you are pushing the limit. Like in academia, you would like push the theoretical boundary by like doing one little step at a time. And like when you do the physical, you know, like exercise, you are like pushing the boundary of like a little bit, right? Like you do one more move, okay, you unlocked this move, and keep going. And then I see the same thing happening for badges also. Every time you take on a learning project, right? Like you finish a badge, you do a skill level up, and this is how you push your boundary of like a level of your game. So I definitely see a lot of similarities there.
And especially I think it's nice to have that sense of gratification, right? You know, so we talk about how, say, Interscale kind of has gamified learning. You get badges, like you say. And I think that's something that's really nice for students. It's like, you know, they're used to video games where you get achievements and you get this little pop-up, this little, you know, cathartic ping sounds. And I think that's nice to know that you've sort of ticked this box, you've achieved something, you've got a little reward. We do have a culture now, which, you know, maybe some people don't like it. I think it's quite fun in that we kind of have to incentivize things. We have to rethink them. And I like that, you know, that's what students experience. But even then, like, you could almost imagine it, you know, being a parent, like, you know, your baby's first steps, that's like a monumental milestone. That's an achievement, that's a badge, you know. You've got the first night's sleep that you got when they weren't crying and waking up, and, you know, little things like that. And eventually you start to really look back, you reminisce, and you think like, we've come a long way, I've come a long way, and there's all these little things that we've achieved. I think those are great.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, so you said that, right? Because all my pictures, all my journals are about my son as like, okay, first teas, first the solid meal.
Exactly,
exactly that.
It's brilliant.
So, I've been enjoying that. Every day with him at work.
And I think it's nice that you can have like you say, you don't see it as sort of I finished my work and now I've actually got something, you know, that gives me a sense of catharsis, or now I've got the terrible twos, you know, you've got these years to look forward to, like, oh, the kids are going to be crying, or they're going to start getting vocal and having a personality, you know, teenagers, they're going to be rebellious, and you get to see it as like, it's maybe it has its hard moments, but that's an experience with its own rewards, right? And so you maybe, in the same way you can get achievements in one video game and achievements in another, you have one experience with your job, you've hit a milestone there, experience with an open mainframe project, and then you move on and your experience as a parent.
Exactly.
They all work together, right?
Yeah, because again, I used to think, okay, I turn off my tech part of the brain and I turn on my mom part of the brain, but there's nothing like that. So like we keep track of like all the milestones we hit at work at a Mainframe Open Education, and we also hit all the milestones for the baby. So definitely the similarities there.
I know what you mean though. Like you can't. Even in my pastoral in volunteering, I don't switch off my technical side of my brain, or I turn on my pastoral. And when I go into Vitali, I still think how can I support my peers? How can I help? How can I be a man of the people? And sort of be that figure that they can ask questions to and feel trust with. And so I think it's like you say, you don't have to switch off. I know some people say like I switch off A and I go to B. I have my sort of jokes and my personality for one friend group and another.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to be yourself, and that's the same across every walk of life.
Yeah, and with my limited experience supporting a workload automation tool, so I was like, okay, the machine can do the scheduling so well. Like I should be able to schedule my time just closer to be that well. Like so I can actually still do a lot. So definitely.
So I guess that kind of leads to our last question then. Do you have a kind of call for papers? So that leads to our last question then. Do you have a call for action that you want to say to our community? Is there something that you would want to say, like maybe the audience of this podcast, maybe our community should think about this differently, or they should strive to do that more? Something that you'd want to see more of in this space?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that question. I'm actually thinking exactly that.
Okay.
Because we were talking about like a reinventing wheels, maybe here and there, and maybe this is actually the moment we want to bring all this efforts together and to forget about who we are from all those like brandings. Okay, you are with this vendor, I'm with this customer, but rather come together as one community.
Yes.
As we're talking about, and say, okay, we're going to contribute to the content, we're going to contribute to the learning path, we're going to help people to build their career.
Yeah.
So like we all come together. I think if I can deliver a message, let's do it, right? Whichever work stream we're working towards, we're all contributing to the ecosystem.
Let's knuckle down, get it done. But if we need to, we can ask for help, right? Because that's the joy of this community.
Actually, if I could use your
shameless plug, go for it. Yeah.
If I can use this interview, so because my colleague Kelsey and I, we're actually proposing a session at Share. We want to talk about a AI curated learning path.
Brilliant.
So we actually throwing all these interviews. We're throwing all these different like hundreds of interviews together, and we want to do an analysis on those interviews and what people talk about their learning path. And then we want to come with this like ideal, right? Like this AI recommended learning path if you want to enter the mainframe world, and how this learning path might look like. And we're happy to take anybody who are interested in validating this path with us, for us, and then we can just go present, and so everybody knows and more people can jump in and make use of it.
Definitely. I mean, that goes a long way, right? Like I look at the fact that, I have people who say to me, like, I want to get into the mainframe, where do I start? And I always say to them, like, I've written this article and I've got like, you can do IBM Z101. There's also some skills build courses that maybe you want to have if you want to do cybersecurity. You don't necessarily want to start right on Rack F. You want to understand it on a more fundamental level. But then there's even things prior to that. Maybe, do you understand what computers are from the very, very basic? Do you want to look at the hardware of IBM Z systems? I think these things are, there's no right answer. I think it's different for everyone. And some people might find this is beneath me, but I do need that. I can skip this, but I cannot afford to skip that. But I do think it's really important that, we have a very kind of curated agenda that we can provide to people. Everyone's had our own experiences getting into this field. For new people, they need to know what we did and how and the best route, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because like we all get shared our personal experience. The good news is the more we talk, we might find all these paths might come together, but you do have to talk to a lot of people. If let's say we can leverage Gen AI, we can just use it and throw them all together and say, this is based on hundreds of people we already talked to for you. Right? You can just build on this and then see what's the best path for you to go forward.
Brilliant, amazing. I guess we'll wrap up with one more question then, a little bonus, a little je ne sais quoi.
Sure.
There's going to be karaoke tonight in the block party.
Okay.
What would be your go-to karaoke song, Nanxi?
Wow, that's definitely gonna come from Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
That's usually the song I start with.
Which one?
Let's see. What's the one started with "You're on"?
Oh yeah.
Fire.
What's the one from Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah.
Backstreet Boys.
Tell me why.
Yeah.